Hello, everyone. We'll wait just a few minutes to see that as many as possible are getting a chance to get logged on. There are a lot of people standing in line, I think. There are a lot of people still logging on, so we'll just wait for another minute or two, and then we'll get going. Yeah, hello, everyone. We're just waiting for a few more people to, to give them a chance to log on. There seems to be a few more just joining right now. So we'll start in just a minute or two. All right, so I think it's time to start. I hope all of you enjoy as nice weather as we do over here in Europe and the UK. I'm based in France myself and finally enjoying really lovely spring weather. So warm welcome to everyone to this webinar, Optimizing Open Access Management, where we'll get a lot of insights from Lancaster University and London South Bank University. So with me here today, I have Leah Wong, Open Access Librarian from LSBU, and Louise Zambianchi, Open Access Manager at Lancaster. My name is Martin Jagerhorn, and I'll be your host for today and try to moderate the different sessions and the questions that you may ask as we go along. The agenda for today we'll start by me giving you a rather short introduction to open access management. And I'll talk a little bit also about the previous on-site workshops we've done in the UK end of last year and also earlier this year. Because this webinar is a little bit sort of the result of many of the UK institutions not able to join the on-site workshops. So we decided to organize this webinar, even though it won't be maybe as interactive as the on-site workshops, at least enabling all of you to listen in to LSBU and Lancaster. And as I said, please use the Q&A here on Teams to ask any questions. And then as we go along, I'll try to kindly abrupt Leah and Louise when it suits with taking up your questions. In the introduction, I'll also give you a little bit of a high-level overview of ChronoSub so that you just see the context a little bit before going into LSBU's and Lancaster's presentations. But as I said, I'll try to keep that short so we can get into the core of today's session as soon as possible. And after the two presentations, if there are any questions left, then we can always take a few more during an open floor discussion before wrap up. And please wait until the end. There are 4 exciting invitations waiting for you. So without further ado, the Open Access Management Introduction and Findings is something I'm sure many of you are very familiar with, but just to set the scene a little bit. So as you know, there are a lot of initiatives driving open access forward that have taken place over the last 2 to 3 decades, with a lot of different milestones along the way. And this has been not a straight road, as you can see here. This includes, of course, initiatives like the Budapest Open Access Initiative, through to more recent ones like Coalition S and Plan S for a lot of funders to align around ensuring all results from their funding becomes open access, to more recent ones like the OSTP or Nelson memo, though we'll see what happens with this over the next 4 years. But overall, we can clearly see that a lot of these initiatives do have a lot of positive effect on open access. And we reached somewhere around 2018 this magical limit or threshold of having more than half of all research outputs being open access. So this is all great and nice, of course, to see. But as you all know, more and more open access also means more and more complexity. It is really not as simple as the traditional subscription model. And this is, I think, a rather common illustration. I took this from one university here, but I'm sure you have similar ones. Trying to explain the intricacies of the gold and the green and the hybrid with different initiatives that can be consulted and used along the way. And if this is not complicated enough for a researcher to understand, then we're happy to talk about 20 other open access models and mechanisms, including aspects like suspected predatory journals. So with this kind of complexity, if we now give you just on 2 slides, a very high level introduction to Kronos Hub, our mission is really to unburden the researchers from administration so they can focus their time on research. So whether we work with institutions, library consortia, funders, or publishers, we always try to put the authors first. And we try to streamline and automate the information flows between the different stakeholders, primarily through integrations, and where that's not possible, increasingly through the use of artificial intelligence, where we transform unstructured data into structured data. So we can primarily today support an AI scanning of APC invoices and AI scanning of the actual full text manuscripts. And our ambition here is to try to facilitate and automate this for researchers and library administrators and management along the publishing journey for all the open access types and mechanisms. So we'll hear today a little bit more from LSBU, primarily around the journal guide and how they try to use that to promote their open access agreements, facilitate the communication with the researchers, provide them with a peace of mind when they select journals for their manuscript submissions. And Lancaster will talk a little bit about that too, but primarily maybe a little more than about APC management, where the purpose is to streamline the handling of individual APC funding requests to get them available on an approval dashboard where they're automatically evaluated seen to the institution's own specific eligibility criteria. This workflow also enables institutions to automate payments, for example, through deposit accounts. We will not talk so much about agreement monitoring. So for your information, it is possible to have an overview of all the agreements, all the open access agreements that you may have in one place. And we'll also not talk so much about full text deposits, but this is about reusing the full text that are gathered along this process and the structured metadata to automatically populate these repositories or CRIS or RIMS systems so that the authors don't have to do that themselves. So the ambition with Kronos Hub as a platform is indeed to support all these different types of open access, where some modules are really focused on one type and others are trying to support the types more broadly. And this was also the basis for the workshops that we carried out in the UK. So as said, at the Crick Institute, end of last year, in Lancaster, early February. So if you want to, you can scan this QR code, or you will wait until after the webinar and you will get a link where you can get access to a page where you can see all the documented results from those workshops. So the focus in the workshops was on green, gold, and hybrid agreements. So there is a mind map where we first elaborated on the challenges and then collaborative solutions. So how can we work together to address these different challenges? So I won't give away all the different solutions here, but just as a high level, the green challenges circulate around the infrastructure primarily, but also how to deal with the limited staff resources and how we can change the culture to move in the direction of emphasizing the importance of green OA. The golden challenges was a lot about communication challenges and automating payment processes. And last but not least, that many institutions have very limited and some no central APC funds, and how we can go about these golden challenges in that perspective. The hybrid, or rather the agreement, open access agreement challenges, as this was based in the UK, it was a lot about the UKRI and its potentially evolving policies for how to fund the open access or transformative agreements going forward. Otherwise, it was very much going down into the details around the communication challenges with the researchers, how to communicate the different agreement conditions in a good way, and also the communication with the publishers in terms of monitoring these agreements and establishing them in the first place. So as said, this is all available on our website, and we'll send out a direct link after the webinar. So with that said, I'll hand over to Leah.
Thank you, Martin. Let me just share my screen. It's loading.
We can see the presentation fine, Leah.
Okay, good. Thank you. So hi, everyone. So my name's Leah. I'm an open access librarian at LSBU, and I'm here to talk about our experience of using Kronos Hub. We really recently signed up for the journal guide following a similar event at the Crick Institute in October. We haven't signed up for the other modules yet, so the agreement monitoring or the APC management. It's just the journal guide for us so far. And we've very recently gone live, so around the end of January, it went live. And this presentation will tell you about how we manage that, so how we approach open access at our institution, why we chose to sign up, and the benefits that we hope it'll bring. So before I get into all that, just to give you a little bit of information, a bit of background information about the institution. We are a mid-sized university. We have around 17,500 students, and we're located in central London. If anybody is familiar with London, we are at Elephant and Castle, which is south of the river. The research that we have at LSBU is mainly within engineering, architecture, and the sciences. We do have a small arts and humanities department, so we do have some books, book chapters and arts portfolios, but the vast majority of our outputs are journal articles and conference papers, which is why the journal guide seems so good, like a good fit for us. And working on open access in our university, it's a very small open access team. It's just me and my manager, which I think is probably quite common across universities these days.
Leah, sorry to interrupt you, but I cannot see your video. I'm not sure this is only for me, but it would be great if it was possible to see it as well.
Oh, my camera, you mean?
Yes, sorry, yeah.
Sorry, yeah. Hang on a sec. Can you see me now?
Yeah.
Okay,
perfect.
good.
Yeah, great, thank you.
So we've got three main ways of funding open access at the at LSBU. So first of all, we make use of the read and publish deals that JISC negotiate for us on our behalf, and we have over 10,000 of these journals. Before the journal guide, we had these journals listed in an Excel spreadsheet, which sat on our open access LibGuides page. We also receive the UKRI block grant, and we use this for research that's funded by one of the UKRI research councils. And then finally, we have a small open access fund, which is a set amount that's reserved for open access activities, including APCs, so for gold open access journals. For the use of this library open access fund, academics need to fill out a form to request approval for the use of this fund, and the requirements are really rigid. They must be for gold open access journal only, so the APC must be mandatory. They must be the corresponding author. It must be under a certain amount, so our limit is 2,500, and they must choose the CC BY license as well. So we decided to sign up to the journal guide for a variety of reasons. This image, I think, represents the complex landscape for researchers that they have to navigate when they're publishing open access. And as I said before, we used to have a Excel spreadsheet where we listed all the journals that were included in the JISC agreements, which wasn't the easiest to navigate. And we did find that academics did struggle with that, particularly because there are so many conditions as part of the deal, and these vary from publisher to publisher as well. So the spreadsheet didn't really show the nuance for each agreement that we had. We also found that some academics weren't even really aware of the read and publish deals, which was a real shame. We found that they were applying for the open access fund thinking that that was the only way to publish open access. And this was, a huge problem because the deals are already paid for. They are already absorbed by the library's outgoings, and we want our researchers to make the best use of them and take advantage of these deals because they're there and they're waiting for them to be used. So and then lastly, because we're a small team, we found that a lot of the time was spent dealing with a lot of inquiries from academics. So explaining all the different conditions and requirements for the deals, for example, quite a lot of back and forth with that. So we're really hoping that the journal guide will reduce those inquiries. So to set up the journal guide with Chronos Hub, we sent them a list of agreements, which was actually reused from Lancaster's title list because they had done this before we did. We did notice a few discrepancies in the number of titles that we should have had showing in the guide, but Chronos Hub have a support service where you can raise a ticket and have the issue looked into. So this is currently being resolved. And so far, we found the customer service team to be really responsive. There was also a couple of exceptions to the bulk of the agreements that we had. So Wiley and BMJ. The Wiley one was because they have the JISC hybrid agreement, which is unrestricted, but then they also have the JISC Gold agreement, which is where gold open access journals are included in the agreements, but there's a consortium cap per year, and that's allocated sort of on a first come first served basis. So at the moment we've included these as one agreement on the journal guide, and we're going to sort of monitor it and see how it goes. We haven't quite decided how we're going to if we will change that or not. And then for the BMJ one, some journals are open to all, but some are only included in the agreement if it's funded by certain funders. So we added these to the journal guides separately and individually. So in this way, we built up the full list of agreements. We also had options regarding filters. So when you go onto the journal guide, you can filter all the journals, and we were able to choose those different filters. There was an option for bespoke journal rankings, for example, but we chose not to have this, so that was left off. But we definitely wanted to be able to filter by subject area, by publisher, and by journal type. And then finally, there was the branding to be taken care of, and that was done pretty much all by Qualis Hub themselves. They took the colours from our website, and we gave them the image at the top of the page and sent it to them, and they sort of took care of all that. So that was really easy. So this is what the journal guide looks like. As you can see at the top of the page, there's the search bar where you can search by title or by ISSN. There's the filters down the left-hand side. On there as well, you can filter by agreements, so that's really clear as well. And then the link is there if anybody wants to take a look, because it is live at the moment. So yeah, you're welcome to have a look at it if you want to. So until we put the agreements in, we had a test agreement, and it showed here on the admin sort of back end. So this is what you would log in and see to make any changes to the journal guide. So yeah, we had a test agreement initially, but once our agreements were all uploaded, the test agreement was removed. But it was really useful to have there to begin with to sort of show us what it would look like. You can see on this list here, the first one is Sage, but then the second and third one are the two BMJ options that I mentioned before. So we've got them as two separate agreements to show the funded and the non-funded option. And it's really easy to amend these agreements as and when, so you have complete control over the wording and everything. And yeah, it's really easy. It takes around 3 hours to update once you've uploaded an agreement list. So yeah, that's quite quick, really. So once you click on one of the agreements in the admin back end bit, you'll see this, which is where you can edit each agreement. So you can edit the text for the agreement description and add in images if you want to using HTML code, which we did. We've sort of used another institution's HTML code and then amended it slightly. If you need to add an updated list, you don't need to remove the existing one first. You just have to have the list of ISSNs in an Excel spreadsheet and upload the file. And it automatically skips over the ones that are already in the system. So it's really easy to update any agreement that you have. And it gives options for which CC licenses as well that you want to include. So CC BY is mandatory for LSBU. So we only tick these ones so only those will appear on the front page. And then I thought I'd give some examples of the text that we use for the description of some of our agreements. So this is what the researcher would see when they click on a certain journal. It'll give a little bit of information about the conditions and the requirements if it's part of the agreement. So the first one, the one at the top there, is an example of one that is part of a read and publish deal. We did think about the wording a lot for this, and we decided to list all the requirements just to completely give complete, transparency and clarity. And the wording is slightly different for each publisher because of the different requirements. So, for example, that last bullet point on that first box talks about all the different article types that are included and eligible for that deal, but that varies from publisher to publisher. So we've got different ones depending on which one you click on. The second box there is just the wording that we have if there's no agreement. So for gold open access journals, for example. And then the bottom two are the BNJ title, the wording for those agreements. So we've decided to mention all the funders in the third box there. And then the last one is the normal BNJ agreement, which is open to everyone. This is a screenshot of our open access LibGuides page. So this is currently where all the information about open access sits. It's the main place for researchers to go to access information about publishing open access. This is where our old Excel spreadsheet used to be, but our journal guide now links from this page. Hopefully later in this year, we'll be revamping this page and making the journal guide a little bit more prominent on this page. But yeah, it's been really easy to sort of link into our existing information page. And then in terms of publicising the journal guide, we've wanted to get the message out there as much as possible. So we've, as I say, we've put it on our LibGuides page. We've also put it on our intranet, which is called Connect. We're going to be including it in the staff notices email, and we've informed the ADREs, which is ADRE stands for Associate Dean for Research and Enterprise, and we have one for each school, so that hopefully they will filter the message down to the researchers. Same with the research committee, which we sit on. We're hoping that the message will sort of filter down from there. And then lastly, we do have staff development training sessions for the library staff. So we think it's really important for the rest of the library to also know about it, even if they don't directly deal with open access publishing. So we've not been live with the journal guide for that long, but we've already had quite a few positive feedback comments. So these are just a few of them that we've received since launching the guide. So it's been really well received so far. And for future sort of possible editions, we're hoping to possibly sign up for the other modules. And we're also really interested in the widget that is available. I don't know if Martin will show that later on or not, but yeah, we're really interested and keen to sort of look into that a little bit more as well. So the widget is where there'll be a form sat on the page where you can answer questions, and it'll tell you whether or not the journal is covered by a deal or not, or whether they need to request use of the Open Access Fund. Although that still gets mediated by the team, and as I understand it. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. I'm really happy to answer any questions, or if anybody wants to contact me afterwards about it, I'm happy to be contacted. That's my email address on the page. So yeah, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Leah. I certainly learned a few new things always every time you present something. So thanks a lot. And yeah, I won't be demonstrating anything for anyone today.
Okay,
I'll try to hold back on that. But I'm sure Louise will maybe show certain aspects of the widget and the APC management where you can see at least one example. But for anyone that wants to see more, of course, you can always reach out to Leah or Louise or myself after this webinar. All right, so thanks again, Leah. And we'll hand over to you, Louise.
Okay, right, I'll start sharing and get my slides. All right. Okay. So can you see my first slide?
Yeah, looks all good.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, right. So I'm Louise Ambianchi. So I'm Open Access Manager at Lancaster, and I've been there some time in this role from 2013 when Open Access first started with that. And it's been a steep learning curve, I have to say. I just wanted, again, just a bit of an outline, what I'm going to talk about Lancaster, why we wanted to maximise, or why we needed to maximise the open access and research management cycle, really. And then what we've done so far and what we intend to do. So yeah, and I've learned a lot from Leah as well, so I'm sharing some of that progress that she's made, and yeah, want to do something similar. And then future development, so things we've not had time for, or technical things on our side that have maybe slowed us down in progressing further. Right, so Lancaster, so we're set in the northwest of England, so it's very scenic, but on the gateway to the Lake District, where actually I live. We've had the jets flying over today, so thankfully they've stopped. We've probably got about 16,000 students, 3,000 plus staff, and probably about 3,000 research outputs per year. We've got a very small team, the same as Leah. So there's me and an open access administrator, and then there's somebody else in the team who deals with the repository and outputs there as well. Actually, I still keep meaning to change this. We're actually a top 10 rated university in the UK. So it's research intensive, but also teaching's very highly rated as well. We use Pure as our CRIS, and we've had that for quite some time. And we started with Cronus Hub in 2023. So I think it was the tail end of 23, but yeah, we've made good use of it so far. And I just thought, you know, something positive about the outstanding library team. So we've won the Times Higher Education Awards for that. But I think part of that is because we like to take an innovative approach and not scared of taking risks and going, you know, being first to try things. So I think Cronus Hub came along at the right time for us. So why did we start looking at an open access management system? We had different requirements, as Leah's already said. We've had quite a few queries from researchers. The most common question we get is which journals can they publish in, what's compliant for them, and do we have funding? And this is where we started with the journal guide, yeah, and then the widget as well, which I'll demonstrate. It's also very labour intensive, so the links between the publishers and the authors, and it's people are toing and froing, so we're trying to cut down on toing and froing with the emails and trying to automate this a bit more. Also, a big problem for us was sending invoices off to finance took far too long. And it was delaying publication. We did temporarily have a credit card, and that was okay, but then every so often you've got to justify why you want the credit card, and by having our own separate accounts, it will be a lot easier. So we needed something different. Again, as Leah said, people weren't really aware of the money we were spending on read and publish agreements and how they could make use of those. So, and then we want to know how to evaluate how they were being used as well. And then also another aspect for us is that we've got Pure as our CRIS, and that's what the researchers use to upload research. And a future thing that we wanted to look at was how to make that easier for them. So there's lots of manual data entry before we started with all this. We often have metadata missing and have to follow up with researchers. So yeah, all these things we wanted a solution for. So yeah, we've already seen this. Martin's shown us this slide. So we've got the journal guide that we'll talk. I'll go in and show you. I'll do a quick demo on there. The APC management, so that's what we're using at the moment. We've got Pure sort of talking across all these different stages. And then monitoring that we will make more use of. But yeah, I'll go into that. And full text deposit. So again, this is a future development for us. So we've progressed so far. So we've implemented our journal guide. And I'm going to just go in and live demo on here. So at this point, I'll just jump out and have a look. Nope, not that one. Let's do the right one first. So what I wanted to show you is so what we've had and what we still have is our webpage for open access agreements. So we've actually linked from there now to use our journal guide. And again, I think we'll look at amending our web pages because I'm wondering whether we just get rid of this long list, because we've got some information in there for what you do when you submit, that we could actually include links in the agreement, in the journal guide. So yeah, I'm going to be taking some of your ideas, Leah, and using those. So let me just have a look. So that's my admin. I want the journal guide. Here we go. Right. So this is what ours looks like. Leah's got a nice introductory box, really, with introductory text. So we're going to do the same. So we're working with Cronus Hub to do some tweaking with our journal guide. But yeah, we've had this quite a while, so we can make it better. So you can look up a specific journal. So for example, we'll have the sociological review. So that comes up there. And then this is just the text that I've included, and I'll show you what it looks like in the admin side for the agreement. So yeah, for some of it, it's really quite concise, and then for others, there's more information. And then we've said, because of our open access policy, that you should choose the CC BY license. So that's how you look that up. So that one's come flagged up that it's part of our institutional agreement. And also now within the journal guide, you can have nice little icons like Leah's shown. So we're going to include those as well, just to make it clearer at a glance to the researcher what's included and where a payment's needed. So then what else you could do is actually have a look for, let's just clear that selection. You could have a look for subject areas. So this is how we find researchers use this a lot. So they might look for, let's have a look at all the subject areas. You can have a look in your area of engineering, say. And if you're funded, you can put the funder in here. So we've got EPSRC. And then, so it brings up a list here. So we've got, this is part of an institutional agreement, so there's no cost involved. Then there are these, if the cost isn't known. I think we were saying, Martin, weren't we, that that we might get rid of some of this text, the list price unknown. But and then yeah, so you can just browse through if you want to have a look and see what's compliant with your funder. You've got different choice there. What has been introduced since we first started with Cronus Hub is the option here to look at journals with agreements. So these are all the agreements we've added to our agreement manager. So it's those where APCs are waived, but it could also be a discount agreement as well. So these are all shown here. So these we've filtered by engineering, the funder, and then those that are in agreements. So we found this to be really, really useful. So you can see this one here is a discount. So for 3D printing in medicine, it's part of one of our agreements. You get 15% discount on fully open access journals. Now, at the moment, we've got this contact the open access team to see whether we've got funding. What we can do, and I'll talk about the little widget for checking compliance, is to have a check and apply little icon. So just above the go-to journal, we could have that over there. And that's how we're going to sync up to the widget and just streamline things. So yeah, so that's that one. I think then what I will do is just show, so Leah's had a screenshot of the agreements manager. So if we just flick over to the admin side, so we've got single sign-on, it's really easy. So I'm just saying this, so hopefully our system's fine. Yeah, it recognises me, so I'm the admin. And we can have a look here. We've got different elements, so we can have a look at the agreement manager. So we've had quite a few. It includes expired agreements as well, so you can narrow those down to just have a look at the active ones. Just sort by alphabetical order as well. So yeah, and Leah was saying, I think this was something we actually did wrong, but that's me. I think BMJ, because there were different packages we could sign up for, we actually have amended those recently. So we've got one for fully open that we actually make available for funded authors, but also we've paid extra for unfunded, so they're included separately. You just have a look down here, so you can have a description, so that's a bit more lengthy on there, and I think we will put some HTML so we can include links back to the publisher's page. You can choose whether it's a read and publish agreement or discount, whatever. And then the life cycle as well, so you can choose when that expires. We've just put in CC BY licenses that we would accept because that's in line with our policy. And then you go to upload the journals there. And then because we've got, I've actually just put Lancaster University for that one. But then if you've got other campuses abroad or multi-sites, then you can include those there as well. So you can go in and amend that, which I have done recently because I've got the wrong titles. And then it's all really quick and easy, and that feeds then through to the journal guide. So I hope that makes sense. Right, and then what I'm going to jump through to do is just show a funding request. So on our other page, oops, let me just go back again. So again, our web pages, they are in the process of being changed, and because we've got a separate little website called Ask. It's like a Q&A thing. It's not the easiest thing to get amended because there's only so many people. So Martin knows. We've dragged him in several times trying to work with our technical team to get information, to get this little widget embedded, which has taken so long. But at the moment, it sort of sits within the text, and we're using it more. At the moment, we're changing this for authors uploading invoices. So when we've already approved, but we can do this in a much better way. But it's just to show you, you can embed this widget wherever. So what you can do is, and I've already set this up, so a member of my team will be bombarded with emails now, but I can show you. Yeah, if you put, yeah, so you could choose whether you're a corresponding author or not, and if not, then if you put anything that's different, let's just put Gmail, for example, oops. Well, it will flag up that it needs to be associated with Lancaster University, so it will prompt you, and you can set up all sorts of messaging at each stage. So then you can continue. And then I think we're talking as well of changing the order of these questions. So again, this is I'm jumping ahead to the future progress slides. And what have we got on here? Sorry, I have to write examples down, otherwise I will forget where I'm up to. So quantum is a journal. So it automatically finds that for you. You choose which license. So if I go ahead and think, well, I want to publish with that one, it says it's subject to approval. I can tell you now we'll reject that one, but but it will come through. So you choose which license. You want to know whether it's been funded. So pop that one in. So again, EPSRC, so that comes up automatically. And then we've got the grant code as well. Now, at the moment, this will come up as unverified because we're not synced up with Pure yet. So that grant information hasn't automatically been identified. And then publication title. So I have got Spectral. There we go. So you can tell I've demonstrated this before. And then continue. And then you could add publication file if you happen to have one, but then usually this is where we ask for the invoice file. Yeah. So I've got that one there ready to go. And then so they just check that it doesn't infringe on any third-party copyright by uploading these things. And then so this is what the author will see. You're almost there. So it looks as though it's likely. So it's done all these checks for us and we can set in lots of checks. And then another thing we're amending, isn't it, Martin, that's been developed since we started with this is that if something is part of an agreement, this is obviously a separate fully open access journal, but if it is, it will flag up at that point. So there's no need to come through to get to the invoice stage. Yeah, and also if a discount applies. So there are lots more things we can do with this. So what I'm going to do now is just flick back to my slides because I took yesterday, I set Richard off with the, he's done lots of screenshots for me. Oops, sorry. Just, Right, so let's just from current slide. There we go. So this is what following that filling in of the widget, the author will then get an email saying thank you for your funding request. We just need you to complete the funding request and check some information. So there's a link there that then takes you through. So from that invoice and the information that's been completed on the widget, there's just further information needed in here. So like the article type, so you would just select journal article from there, put in an accepted date, and then the next screen. It's already populated with that information from the widget. It's picked Richard, again it with a single sign-on, won't it? And he's verified himself as corresponding author. Funding information, we've already got that. And then payment request. So it's already populated that information. It's scanned it from the invoice and populated that amount in there for 800 euros. So again, just go through. Again, the author needs to confirm and then submit. And then you get this nice little message saying, thank you for submitting. What happens now? So then it comes to the library to review. So the author gets an email again, just to say that it's been submitted with all the details. Got any questions in the meantime, to contact the open access team and we'll deal with the request as soon as possible. So from the library side, we get an email. So myself and Diane and my line manager, Elaine, are set up as administrators. So we each get an email that comes in there. So we can go then through to the approval dashboard and review and manage the request. So that's what I'm going to show you now. Yep, there we go. So in the approval, so from that email, you would click on that link and it would jump you through to here. So we can see that we've got this pending approval. So this is this article. And you can see eligibility. It's automatically done the checks for us. So it's gold away. It's listed in directory of open access journals. It's corresponding author. There's no agreement found. It's license type. Yeah, and the funding acknowledgement. I think for this, we just need to have a quick look over at the invoice. And I think it's because we just need to switch which account, I think. Oh, no, it's not. It's because we've not actually read any text. So if Richard had uploaded the published version, if there was a paragraph acknowledging funding, it would have scanned that and populated that in there. That is why for that one. So we can see, just pop over there. Yeah, there's a fee, so it's $600. I couldn't read before, not $800. And then decide whether to approve or reject. Now, what it hasn't done is assign account to APC request, because obviously the author can't do that. So that's something we're just going to flick over to our invoice management and just have a look at now. So you can see in the invoices, we've paid 66 already. We've got one awaiting approval, which will appear in a minute. So what you could do if you wanted to, you can have a look at that invoice file. You can check that the information on there is right, but I trust this. And then if you just want to manage invoice, right, so this is where we want to assign which account. So like Leah, we have a UKRI block grant, but we also have a central, an institutional open access fund. It's, yeah, probably not going to last us very long, but yeah, we've done quite well from it so far. So we want to choose, and obviously because it acknowledges UKRI Council, that we want to account.
It's more common
to that account.
It is, yeah, no, it's more common only. It's actually now possible to do this directly from the approval dashboard, so you don't have to go. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, right. Okay.
So under pending approval, you can select the account that you want to charge.
Because oh well, it's done it there, but I just couldn't.
Yeah.
Whereabouts would you do that then? Is it in this bit?
No. If you just you should be able to click there. It looks a little strange on your screen. I just tried it out on my own. Maybe it is something with the rights. But in any case, if you select,
that's the onty thing. Yeah, because I was thinking, first, maybe. And then so now I can approve it because I know it's going through to that one, and then we need to complete it. All right, so if we go back to that approval dashboard again now. So there won't be anything in pending, but it should show as approved. Yeah, so that's there. So that's approved. And then if we want to have a look again, maybe if we jump to accounts. I should also say, because, our authors, we need to do some more advocacy. So once we've changed the format, I think, of the check and apply, we'll get authors to do more of that. What we have been doing a lot of is when we've approved things by email, and then we've got invoices, we've been adding them manually ourselves, but we can, again, this is something we need to improve on our side, just change workflows. So you can actually add it manually yourself. So you can have a look at funding requests there and create new request. And it's essentially asking for the same information. So you could add DOI, title, and if you've got that publication file, you could upload that and then it will populate a lot of this form. So that's that one. So let's have a look at accounts, because I was mentioning that we've got two separate accounts. So UKRI deposit. So we're in the process of adding our final batch of money that runs out at the end of this month. So that's going into Cronus Hub. So it's really good for us to see, instead of running an account, running a report in our finance system, trying to work out what's been spent. We can see at a glance here. We do have a separate, we do have a project code, a university project code. So we have some invoices here that won't have had VAT, and we need to pay reverse VAT. So in the process of sorting that out with our finance team. And then if we do any contributions to read and publish agreements, we do that from the central project code. But we have like block amounts, so we might deposit 50,000 at a time into the UKRI block deposit account. So we found that really good, just to see at a glance how much we've got left. And we've not got a lot left. And then we've got our institutional pot of money as well. Yeah, so yeah, I just think it's marvellous to be able to see that so easily. And that pending the invoice that we've just approved, that will sit in, and it will go for payment. So it tends to go for payment, I'd say at least once a week. Sometimes it can be more frequent than that. So they get paid a lot faster than it would have done if we'd have sent it through our finance team. So when I was saying about reverse VAT, so there actually is the article report here that we can produce. So we can just do a whole list of articles. Let's have a look. Should we try and run it? All right. So yeah, really quick. So this will just produce. Ooh, hang on. Switch my camera off by mistake. Sorry, that's because my controls have moved while trying to download. All right. So yeah, so this report just is everything that's been paid from both accounts. And so we can, you can see where there's not been any VAT paid. We can filter that out quite simply. And then the accounts as well. Let's just have a look there. So you can separate out from which account so that VAT needs to be paid from as well. So that's something that Kronosub has developed for us, because it was a definite need that we need to pay our VAT. And then I'm just going to flick back to the slides again, I think. Let's see. From current. So we've been through that. Future developments. Yeah, the widget we're going to work on. And I think we can make our journal guide look a lot nicer than it is. Another thing that we want to do is look at reporting. So in that admin, well, I can go back and look at that in a minute, but from the administrative portal, there is the option of getting reporting, and we're hoping to work with Open Access Switchboard and then getting that publication data into Kronos Hub. I have got some manual spreadsheets that just need some manipulating, and then I can add to some publishing, to some publishers and to some agreements, and then we can start evaluating that. But yeah, time always runs out, and I think I'm going to do it today, and then it doesn't happen. But we will get there. And then we've mentioned full text deposits as well. We're trying to get, with Pure, we're still on a hosted version, and we're trying to move that to the cloud, and that has been happening for about a year. So it's really frustrating. So until that happens, then we don't really want to start syncing up Kronos Hub. There's no point until that's happened. And I believe it's now been pushed to June. So hopefully this year it will happen. And then we can look at maybe using a field, within the widget that we could actually add some full text, and then that can sync up into Pure as well. Yeah, so this is what I need to start doing it and stop talking about it. Yeah, so just got, but I'll flick back to that. And then the sync with Pure. Yeah, so we can get more information, or more automation for people, the grants information and funders. And then we can transfer data. Yeah, so yeah, we're in the process of wanting a new repository. So we have Pure as our portal, and then that feeds into ePrints. But yeah, in the whole process of making a business case for a new repository, it has been flagged up how poor the interface is for researchers for adding research. So if we could just do something for journal articles itself, then that would be a huge improvement. So if we can use Cronus Hub for that, then that would be amazing. And then yes, I've got questions as well. At this point, I'll just stop sharing.
Great. Well, thanks a lot, Louise.
Okay, sorry, it's a bit of a jump around.
No, thanks a lot, Louise. It was a great presentation, and also really interesting for our part to see someone using the platform also directly from your perspective. So again, always learning something new, and I must admit, I was very poor at coordinating the questions. So people have used the Q&A, and I have not been so well at interrupting any of you. So so I suggest that we'll go through a couple of questions, and then we'll wrap up for today. We spent exactly 1 hour, and I know it's difficult for people to accommodate a lot more time. So some of you will maybe have to see this first in the recording afterwards that we'll send out, of course, if you cannot stay longer. But we'll definitely take a couple of the questions, and then I promised a few invitations, so I'll go through them as well. So I'll start with a question for you, Leah. I'm not sure if you've seen this question already, but the question is, when you went live, and if you've already noticed a reduction in inquiries from the scientists at LSBU.
Yeah, I answered this in the chat, but I can say it as well. But because it only went live maybe like a month and a half ago, we've not really seen that much of a reduction in inquiries. So we are still getting academics come to us asking, first of all, asking where the spreadsheet is, but also just asking whether this particular journal has an agreement, and we direct them to the new journal guide, which is a lot easier now because we don't have to then go through all the different requirements for that journal. We can just sort of say, there you go, there's the guide, take a look. And yeah, so we've had really good feedback from people who we've already sent it out to. We're still getting the message out more generally about the journal guide. So I think if you ask that question to us in 6 months' time, then I'd hopefully have a bit more of a positive answer. But at the moment, I think we're still getting the message out, so it's still a bit of a work in progress.
Do you want to comment on that, Louise, as you use the journal guide a little bit more or longer? So have you seen that there is a reduction in questions coming back to you from researchers?
Yeah, I think we have, and I think it is more of the where can I publish? Yeah, so it's which journals are there in my area. So that has really helped. So before we just sent them to a web page and said, work your way through this list of publishers, where it's obviously more focused. So yeah, I think we've had, like Leah, we've had really good feedback about that, that it's really helpful. Yeah, so definitely. So if somebody comes with a query still, we just send them a link to the journal guide, and then it keeps them quiet. Yeah, no, it is. It has improved.
Okay. All right. Well, it will be interesting to see how it evolves for you, Leah, as well over time, and hearing back on that topic. The next question is for Louise, but I think this is maybe something you can think about as well, Leah. and it's quite detailed. So the question is, if you find any issues with the journal checker tool, so the JCT compliance checker saying hybrid journals are compliant with UKRI with CC BY, but actually UKRI won't pay for that, so authors need to self-archive using rights retention instead. And the question is how you get how do you see that, and have you a workaround for that?
We haven't actually seen any problems. So anything that has been hybrid, we haven't had anything that's not been compliant. So yeah, I don't know if you've got any examples. It'd be good to have a look, but we haven't come across any issues at all. No.
Yeah, okay, because I guess that this can come from, so this is what we're facing with many others.
Yeah.
The funder policy
Yeah.
says it's eligible, right? Because the journal checker tool and the policy compliance that the journal guide provides is only checking if it's compliant with the policy, which is not the same as being eligible for funding.
Yeah.
So sometimes this causes confusion for the researchers.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's not something
But I
you have
think
encountered.
because before Cronus Hub, because we directed people to the journal checker tool, that we always explain that, saying yes, it's eligible, but you need to have the money to pay for it. So yeah, so I don't know whether they've just got used to seeing that. I'm not sure, but no, we haven't had a problem with people saying, "Oh no, you can pay for it." So yeah. Yes, I understand the question and the problem, but we haven't had any issues.
Okay. Leah, anything that you want to comment on that side with compliance versus funding eligibility?
No, we've not really had any queries about that at all, really. Yeah, sorry.
Well, it's good to keep on the radar. We certainly do get these questions, so we try continuously to see how we can improve the wording and the messaging, so it's clear that there's a difference between compliance with the policy and being eligible for funding. All right. Next question is well, people really enjoy your presentations. That's great. The question here is, how did you make the case for Cronus Hub in your institutions? Who did you have to convince? What was the clincher? So my English just learned a new word. Do you think? And is access to Cronus Hub financially sustainable for your institution? This may take a longer while to explain, but you did take very different approaches to the procurement. So maybe, you can try to give like a short answer, if that's possible.
Yeah, I think for us, because we wanted a whole system, we had to go out to tender, which took forever. So even though we got Cronus Hub in 2023, I don't know, I can't even remember, Martin, when we started talking about this for a long time. So we had to do a business case, and that had to go through several committees, and then it got approval from our Director of Library Services, because he could see. And I think the clincher was definitely starting with the journal guide, because we were spending so much money on read and publish agreements that we could justify that we're maximising the use of those. And then because we are such a small team, that anything to improve administration and the efficiency of it was obviously seen as a positive thing. But we had to go through the financial tender process, which was quite painful. But yeah. So it didn't take much to convince the library, and then once we got the business case in place, then it was fine. So over to you, Lee.
Yeah, our senior management and library director were really receptive, and I think really the clincher for us was we obviously, it wasn't as big a deal as for you, Louise, because we weren't getting the whole package. We were just getting the journal guide. but this year our open access fund had run out. So I think we reasoned that if the read and publish deals, which that we've already paid for, have already been absorbed by the library's costs, if we can get researchers to use those more, then it would stretch out the open access fund for longer in the year, or hopefully even to the end of the year. And that was our reasoning. So yeah, it was kind of a bit of an easy argument to make, really. And I think senior management were just really receptive and really enthusiastic and keen on doing anything that they could to promote those read and publish deals.
So Leah, in case you opt into the other modules, and it becomes sort of a bigger volume in that sense, like Lancaster, do you have to go through the same kind of procurement process as Lancaster had to do, or can you
I'm not
argue differently?
Sure. We would have to make a bigger case. For the journal guide, we've used part of the UKRI fund to pay for that. So that's where that's how we have funded it. Obviously, if it was the other modules and a bigger package, I'm not sure. We'd have to have a little talk about it in-house and just see what we could do about that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I know this is a sort of a topic on many institutions' agendas, so thank you for sharing. That's been very transparent ways. There are a lot more questions, but maybe just the last question before we'll wrap up. And that is, how long did the initial implementation take at your respective institutions, and how much time would you estimate you spent on preparing to launch? So, Leah, do you want to start?
Yeah. So when was the Crick Institute? I think it was October, wasn't it? So we attended the workshop in October, and we sort of went back, had discussions with our senior management team, got the go ahead, got the green light. In terms of preparing to launch, we didn't really need to do a lot because Lancaster had done a lot of the legwork before us. Thank you, Louise.
It's all right.
We actually didn't have to do much of the legwork. We just used the agreements and sent all the information to Corners Hub. We just edited the LibGuide page once the link was ready and ready to go. There's a few tweaking that we had to do because some of the numbers of journals, there was a bit of a discrepancy in what was showing on the guide and what we should have had in our read and publish, which I think we shared that problem actually, Louise, because so it just meant uploading newer versions of the agreement ISSNs. So yeah, it really wasn't that long, and then it launched in I think it was around the end of January. I can't remember. Yeah, I think it was around that time. It probably could have been done quicker, but because we're such a small team, it's just finding the time to dedicate to doing it really. But it didn't really take long at all.
Right. Yeah. So the contract start date was, I think, beginning of January, and then for the journal guide, it's all actually, just to explain, the journal guide, the APC management, and the agreement monitoring are available out of the box, so we can set this up rather quickly. It's just a question of when it's scheduled, but it's typically within 1 or 2 weeks from contract signature that you all get access. But then, of course, it's up to each institution to see how it can be launched and how it can be communicated. So I know for Lancaster it took a lot longer.
It took us ages.
Yeah.
No, I think it probably took a year, if I'm honest. But then we had a few issues, didn't we, with the ISS team, with the single sign-on. So just like things that you think are little things just took ages. I wouldn't say that's down to Cronus Hub at all, because you got our journal guide. You did it all for us, for it to look nice and ready to go. Yeah, the agreements manager, that took ages, and also because it was getting that journal information was really hard, because I think JISC had Knowledge Base Plus at the time, and then that disappeared. So, and then obviously, like, you know, things change and they need updating. So that took a while, and we had a few technical issues, but Cronus Hub, yeah, as soon as we messaged, then you were sorting missing journals and things like that. So yeah, and then when we were happy, we started with the journal guide, went out to departments, and then set that up, demonstrated that. Yeah, so I think we're probably at the start of the next academic year. I think we were ready to go. But I think we've just been tweaking things as we go along, haven't we? And the things have improved a lot, I think, since we started. So, and there's more things I want to do.
Yeah, but I think it's so important from our
Yeah.
perspective also to
Yeah.
emphasize the fact that we really want to see this as collaborative efforts. And so when we started out together with you, Louise, there were a number of things that we had to learn. For example, that you had 2 accounts, a UKRI block grant and a central fund.
Yeah.
So we spent some time on developing specific support for that. And indeed, for you to find the title list, that was, of course, great work. Well, now we can have an easier path for everyone else, like LSBU could confirm. So the more we can work together in this sense, the easier it will be. And as said, now we have, for UK institutions, at least an out-of-the-box solution, I think that works very well for at least the journal guide and ABC management. And with agreement monitoring, well, we'll see when you dive into that in more detail what we'll find out.
I will do it.
Yeah, exactly. But it's at least all there. So with that said, I just want to thank you all very much again for contributing. We'll for sure organize more workshops on site and webinars online. And I know that there are a number of already existing Kronos Hub customers on the call today. We're all learning from each other and other institutions that are maybe thinking more about how to solve these different challenges. So I'll share my screen here again to see if I get it right here. To proceed with the 4 promised invitations. So the first invitation is that all of you that have joined today's call have the possibility to benefit from a free trial. So if you go to this URL and sign up, then we will review that and get back to you rather quickly. And then you can try out at least the journal guide, but potentially also ABC management and agreement monitoring for free until the end of June. And then we have developed together with the UK community a pricing model, which means that the more institutions that join, the more we can share the costs, and hence everyone will benefit from a discount. So this was already at least 5%, but this can grow quite quickly towards more and more, and up to about 50% discount on the journal guide. So this is the first invitation to consider. And as I said, it's a risk-free, no-cost trial. So please go ahead if you want to explore this more hands-on yourselves. Invitation number 2 is maybe not so exciting, but it's just that we really would love to get your feedback, what you thought about today's webinar, and so that we can learn and see what we can improve upon. And you can also suggest further and new topics if you want us to deep dive into any of your favorite subjects. Invitation number 3 is that we also have a, well, the next webinar we have is next week. And this is very much in line with our ambitions to put authors first. So I think this is a really interesting webinar for primarily libraries to hear from a range of different authors with different backgrounds, different subject areas, different geographies, what they really want, what their main challenges are. So hopefully we can all learn something from this webinar as well. And the last invitation is for anyone going to the UKSG. We would love to invite you for joining us on a networking excursion to the Seven Sisters. And this happens on the Sunday. So either we'll organize a pickup for you from this center of Brighton at around 10 a.m. Or if you want, you can go directly to the Seven Sisters, and then we'll offer you a wonderful walk and talk and lunch and great food and great togetherness. So with that said, well, we'll meet all soon again, I hope. And thank you very much all listening and all great questions. And soon after today's webinar, you will receive links to all this material, including the recording. So again, thank you very much, and especially Leah and Luis.
Pleasure. Thank you.